Hello guys, welcome to all of you in the data mindset. My name is Amit and I'm your host for this session. So I think in the previous class we discussed about some of the topics related to operators, and we also discussed about how to take any inputs as a external variable as a external input. In today's class we are going to learn about decent control statement, and it is very important topic. Believe me guys, in any programming language, be it Java, be it C++, or any development programming language, uh, it this topic is quite essential. So you can apply this topic, you can learn this topic very useful perspective. So let's talk about what is meaning of decent control statement. Going forward, I will give you one very important scenario to understand this topic very easy way. But of course, before going to start these topics, I would like to give you some very important. I would like to give you framework to understand this topic. So let's understand that in the decision control statement, basically we understand if and else. Okay, basically we will go for logic. We will go for designing our logic by using if and else statement. Okay. So if an else statement is nothing but if you are giving some set of the conditions, if it is going to match, you do certain operations. If it doesn't match your conditional logic or conditional statement, then of course it goes to next statement of the executions. All right. Okay. So here the engine of the automation or the chain of this flow is start with if statement. Basically this is a gateway where you can able to understand that is what is supposed to be evaluated, okay, or whatever the conditions we are going to evaluate. Secondly, it goes to else statement. Between that I have written elif. Okay, of course you need to understand that is if and else there is a elif statement. So if certain conditions is getting executed, it goes to if, but you have a multiple conditions supposed to be executed. In that case, you have to use elif statement, or you can say multiple chain logic. You can implement it over here. Followed by that, you can apply else statement, where else if all the previous all the previous statement under the if, under the elif, if nothing is getting executed, then certainly else is getting executed. So this is basically a elimination stages, or you can say this is the final statement where none of the statement has been executed. Then finally it is going to hit the else statement. Okay. Followed by that, let's say how we can use it. Okay. And I have kept it this slides from quality controls perspective, because let's say in a lot of programming structure or under the Python development stages, you can able to understand there are certain scenario where you have to write a code in such a way that is supposed to meet your production standard code. Okay, in that cases you have to write in the code in such a way it can meet your quality standard. Okay, so let's say I just put it over. Industry approach is normally what happens, that is if null ratio is greater than 0.05, let's say if you're just checking your quality statement or quality control statement of data, what is a number of the percentage or number of the percentage of data is missing in your input set. So you can just put it, these are the conditions. Under the if, there are certain conditions, followed by elif and followed by else. Okay, I would like to make you one very important point. This conditions, when you are going to use elif, it is also useful into the deployment logic perspective. So in the machine learning engineering perspectives or ML ops conditions, where we use a lot of statistical factors or the parameter test to test it. For example, if you are building in some kind of the model development process, so accuracy is one of the parameter where you test it, how the model is performing. Okay, and whatever the threshold you can keep it to test your model. Or so if your model accuracy is, let's say, 90%, then you can write the logic that is if the model accuracy is, let's say, 90%, then of course you can say this model is going into the productions. If the model accuracy is below that, this model is not supposed to go into the productions, or maybe retune the model once again, right? Similarly, the Intent classifications, okay, the real-time AI development perspective. For example, let's say if confidence is 0.85, I'm sure that is some of the people will not understand this topic over here, the confidence, like what is meaning of that and so on. But of course, just understand this is one of the conditions, and basically it is the constitution has been written to understand the response of the chatbot. Basically, these are the conditional stages. Now I would like to bring back to you, okay, I would like to bring back to my actual coding program where I will show you how we can write if-else statement, and followed by that we will see some more examples. Okay, so without wasting much time, let's go and start it. In decision control statement, as we discussed, it starts with if and else. Okay, before going to hit this topic, people used to, or maybe some students ask me why we need to hit this topic. Okay, to make it very precise and clear, let me talk about one scenario. Suppose you wanted to purchase a mobile phone of 15,000 rupees, and let's say the brand is Samsung. You wanted to purchase a 50,000 rupees and the brand is Samsung. What other criteria you will keep in your mind before purchasing this phone? Or maybe like just I'm giving the budgeting, maybe 15,000, under the 15,000 rupees, which are the phones you would like to purchase it, and the certain criteria you would like to meet with all the phones, which is, let's say, it should have like 8 GB RAM, 250 GB storage space, like 50 megapixels camera, 48 24-hour battery backups. Okay, the processor is Snapdragons and so on. Like there is a multiple you can say features you can think about it. Consider that these are the features is supposed to be there in your considerable phones. Okay, if these features are not going to meet, you are not going to buy that phone, right? So if we have to translate all these conditions into our programming, how we can do that? And this is what we are going to learn it today. Okay, so any condition that you have to test it, any condition or logic you have to test it, for that we write if else statement. Okay, so I will start with very small code. Okay, so let's say, since we have already learned in the previous class that how we can take the user input or external variable, external input, I'm sorry, external input. So let's say what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a small program just to check that the person is eligible to cast his vote in India or not. Okay, of course here I'm going to write a variable called age, and then I'm going to put a, like no, I would like to put float input, and I'm going to write enter your age. Okay, now I am going to write a conditional statement. Okay, if else statement. So if age is greater than equal to, let's say, 18. Okay, so how we can write the conditions? First you need to write if followed by name of the variables. Okay, then put the conditions, and followed by that you have to put a colon. Okay, so I have written if age is greater than equal to 18. Okay, just enter it. Once you are going to enter, so you can see there is a space created before the cursor. Okay, where the cursor is blinking, there is a space, and this space is called indentation space. It's a very important, guys. Please make sure that is you are over here. I'm going to repeat my statement again. So how we can write this code? You can write if followed by conditions followed by colon, and once you enter the button, so the cursor is blinking by leaving some space, and the space is called indentation space. I'm going to write it indentation space, and you have to maintain this space. If you do not maintain it, Python will throw you an error. Alright, so I'm going to write a print statement. You are eligible to cast your vote. Okay, and if it is not, then I'm going to write else followed by colon. Make sure that is once you write else statement, you do not need to write condition statement. Else, in the else statement, we do not have to write any conditional statement. We just have to write else followed by colon. Okay, so this program is smart enough to consider that is if this condition is not valid, then opposite is going to validate. Okay, the opposite condition of that is going to validate, and that's why we do not have to write, do not need to write over here. Else is smart enough to consider the opposite statement of that. And then I'm going to write print statement, and here I'm going to write you are not eligible to cast your vote. Correct? And that's all, guys. This is a piece of the code, and this is very easy. Okay, this is a piece of the code. Let me execute this code. Okay, and now you can see it is asking me that is enter your age. So let's say the person has entered the age is called, let's say 35. So here you can say you are eligible to cast your vote. Let me execute once again. So let's say some person has 17 point, let's say his age is 17 years 10 months. Okay, so I just put it over there 70.10, and now you can say you are not eligible to cast your vote. Correct? But of course, before going to ask certain questions and ask a very important perspective of this programming, I believe that you can able to understand how to write if-else statement. Let me give you one more example. Let's say you wanted to calculate the let's say you want to calculate the tax. Okay, let's say I'm going to write a program. You want to calculate the income tax of individual according to the Indian tax system. Okay, all right, so let me give you some scenario. For example, particularly in India, the taxation system works like that. If your salary bracket falls into the certain range, then you are eligible to pay the certain tax, and if you are follow into the different ranges, then again of course the tax bracket is going to change. I believe that in the most of the country the same same criteria goes to apply. So I'm going to write certain conditions. The condition is condition 1. If your income below, let's say 12 lakhs, I think in the according to the current taxations, if your income is less than 12 lakhs per annum, I don't think you are eligible to cast your vote in India. And once you are moving after 12 lakhs, then of course there is a tax bracket. So let me just write it down. So because I'm following the previous tax brackets scenario, so let's say if I going to write if your income is less than 6 LPA, then you do not need to pay any tax. Condition 2, if your income greater than 6 LPA and income is less than, let's say, 10 LPA, then you are eligible for, or you need to pay 5% tax rate. Okay. Condition 3, if your income greater than, let's say, 10 LPA, and income is less than 15 LPA, then you need to pay, let's say, 10% tax rate. Okay, and followed by that, many conditions can be applicable over here. So how we can hit this problem? Okay, to start this problem, let's do one thing. Okay, first I'm going to create a variable. Let's say the variable name is income. Okay, and I'm going to write a float, and then I'm going to write input. Okay, because the income can be into, like, float values, which is like, let's say 6,50,000, 6,80,000. Okay, could be anything. Okay, that's why you're taking a float. So enter your yearly income. Correct. Now I'm going to write, of course I'm going to write some hard-coded values. Okay, but in later on we will learn about how we can remove these hard-coded values, and we will make it like, how we can take those values in the programmings where user can feed and we can pick it up those values. Okay, if income is less than equal to 6 lakh, okay, then, okay, sorry, right, then I'm going to print you are you do not need to pay, do not need to pay any taxable taxable you do not need to pay any tax. Okay, right. Now since we have written multiple statement, so of course we can write elif conditions over here, right? So here we can write elif, and I can write income is greater than 6 lakh and income is less than 10 lakhs. Correct? So in this case I'm going to write a tax amount. So of course, let's say if any one person has a income of 8 lakhs, then what do you think that is, how much he is eligible to pay the tax? So if the person is having 8 lakhs per annum, so in the 6 lakhs they do not have to pay any tax. So of course 8 minus 6 is 2. So so the person has to pay the taxable amount only on 2 lakhs, right? So here we can write tax amount is income. Okay, we can write sorry, income minus 6 lakh. Okay, income minus 6 lakhs. Okay, and then it is eligible for 5% tax bracket, which is 0.05. And now we can pass a statement, your taxable amount is tax underscore amount. Okay, all right. Again one more condition, elif okay, and let's say I'm going to add one more condition. The condition is condition 4. Okay, if income is greater than 15 LPA, then okay, 30% tax for all the income greater than 13% tax rate. Okay, so I'm going to write, okay, elif income is greater than 10 lakhs. So here I am just going to make it less than equal to, and income is greater than income is less than equal to 15 lakh, my bad. Okay, then tax amount is again how much the tax the person is supposed to pay. Let's say the person is income is 12 lakhs. So in that cases, first 6 lakhs they do not need to pay anything. Okay, so rest is 6 lakhs have a split of 4 lakhs plus 2 lakhs, because in the first 4 lakhs he has to pay only 5% and rest 2 lakhs he has to pay only 10%, right? So the taxable amount is taxable amount is in first 4 lakh he has to pay 0.05 plus in the and in this one the person has to pay 10%. And now we can write your taxable amount is tax underscore amount, correct? And now all right, so let's say I think this condition is not I'm going to write. I'm going to simply write else the person is going to write. So because here we have written three conditions. Fourth conditions I'm not going to write. Of course you can write it you can try 15% and then 30%, and for after that you have to write else statement. So you can write a those conditions which is beyond these are the conditions. That means all possible scenario if you have already handled, then the rest of the condition is goes to else statement. So here you can write you can write let's say the person has given very weird income in the income values, maybe some kind of text he has entered. Then you can say input is income input is invalid. All right, so let me execute this piece of the code. Here you can say if the person is entering, let's say the person is entering 5 lakhs. So since it is going to meet these conditions, you say you do not need to pay any tax, correct? Let me execute this piece of the code once again. So let's say this time I'm going to add 12,50,000. So here your taxable amount is let me check it where it has gone mistaken. All right, so first is 20,000 plus okay. All right, so one thing is, let's say here in this case it should be person is having 12,500. so first 6 lakhs is not will be calculated, so which is and the rest 6 lakh will be 4 plus 2. In the 4 lakhs they have to pay only 20,000, and for rest 2 lakhs, okay, for rest 2 lakhs, what they have to do? Okay, so in this situations, it has to be like 12 lakh 5,000 minus 10 lakhs. Okay, it means it is 2 lakh. Sorry, here is a mistake. 0.10, correct? Right. Okay, so here you can see this is the taxable amount is 45,000. Okay, this is the correct one. Okay, I hope you understand that is how we can write if and else statement. Okay, all right guys, so it is very interesting. I hope you have enjoyed this session. So let me go back to this slide. Okay, one second. All right, so here I am going to discuss certain questions, and of course we will discuss those questions over here. All right, these are the approach we have written according to the complex engineering's perspective. I hope once we will become matured enough to writing the Python codes, you will understand these are the concepts. Okay, now let's go and check our knowledge. Okay, so the question is, which statement is check if the first if the first if conditions evaluate to false? Okay, which statement is check if the first if conditions evaluate to false? If, elif, nested if. So can you respond, guys? Okay. Second question is, in a pipeline where we check confidence greater than 0.9, then confidence 0.7, okay, is greater than 9, and then confidence is greater than 7. What happens if the confidence is 0.95? So here, first of all, in this case, because it is beyond this confidence level, so you can say that is it is, of course you can make this statement if the confidence level is beyond this one, then of course you can say this is type 1 error or type 2 error, because that is normally you can apply in the inference of stats. Of course, once you understand that the stats, you will make it opinion over here. Third is, why is elif preferred over multiple independent if blocks for threshold checks? Okay, so you can make this statement to handle the multiple if statement, so we can use elif. Okay, because if you are going to write if statement again and again, so that means your programs is unable to understand that is where it should be able to start it, which if statement is so able to start it, because the structure is if and is block. So one if, multiple elif, and then followed by else. Okay, this is structure we have designed. Okay, sorry, and this is structure we used to write in the Python programming. Okay, all right, so I hope you have enjoyed this session, guys. If you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it, and of course you can get a lot of similar contents related to the Pythons. And if you have any questions any related to the topics, feel free to connect me and I will try to respond to you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining this session. Thank you so much.